some of it will directly go and get registered, proportionate to the receptivity we have, or ekagrata, a one-pointedness. The same applies to the spiritual studies also. Here we have one more advantage, unlike the academic studies. Here something is related to our workaday life. This is what we heard, but we are unable to do it, that manana comes. And then we find our mere intellectual exercise of going within and getting registered will not help us much. So we develop an attitude of prayer to Him. You facilitated us to hear the various aspects, facets of sadhana. At the time of hearing, it is so convincing because it is expounded by masters which have come out from their own experience. But somehow I find it difficult to make it a part of my life. Kindly enable me to do that. Here also, if the prayer comes at the superficial level, it may not have any impact. We make a serious effort, and when we are unable to do it, and when we make a prayer from the bottom of the heart, it does have its own impact. Papa puts it in two words, constant remembrance. So now we forget about the satsang, forget about everything. How do I maintain constancy in remembering Him? If this question comes back to us often and often and often, out of 100 transactions in a day, I may be able to bring in for the one transaction. But that effort has to be made. So long as we feel we are an individual, this effort has to be made. We cannot simply take under the shelter everything is happening by God. That is a statement given by people who have realized. We have only heard. So we cannot straight away take shelter under that, though it is the truth fundamentally. So we keep on praying and do everything. Every day when we take, suppose we just hear and go, it will not. Suppose we make some serious studies, at least 1 point a day. Because the moment we go out from the satsang or from the ashram or from the temple or from that particular discipline or program, we are straight away entering into the Vyavaharik world, where God will test us at every moment. He wants us to try and see for ourselves whether we have been able to imbibe the sublime teachings given to us by Him through somebody else. So this test will be there. Even after setting up this ashram, we can find, if we go through the letters of Puja Mataji to Puja Papa, even when Papa was in body and later when Papa dropped the body, it was Mataji's usual practice to report everything to Papa in the form of letters. There you will find the tone of the letter. Suppose somebody comes and behaves in our language, in the way in which they should not behave in an ashram. Mataji will not point out them as an individual. Papa, why did you come in this way and then behave like this? Anyway, Papa, please don't come to us through that form. No. So how to translate this? That also Mataji does it by writing letters to Papa. Why was it published in Vision? Just imagine. So it was with the intention of people like us who hear, but at the same time who are unable to hold on to those during our dealing with men and matters. We will try during this week or next week, we will try to dig out some old letters. Just to give, the purpose of that letter is, whenever we are subjected to go through trying moments, how do we transform the same from the negative stand to a positive stand? Here again, when we hear that letter, we read that letter, suppose we keep quiet, no. It will be another additional file in our memory, that's all. So what is it that I am doing from my part to absorb these teachings? This question I should ask myself. Though you have provided everything, facilitated everything for me, on my part, what do I do? All of us should know the naked truth that we will not be given an atmosphere where everything will be declared as positive. So every day, every moment of our life, there will be challenges. And at that time, if we take it not as a challenge, an opportunity placed before us to pass the exam, no? Initially, we may fail. Rare exceptions, we may not fail even in the beginning. Today at about 12:30, one family came here. They all came to Sadhana Kutir. The head of the family does Bhagavata Saptaham in Malayalam. Previously also they had come here when we had such a program in the Sri Rama temple. They used to stay here. Almost every day, evening, night, after the program, they used to come. They used to share. We used to share. He has a boy. Today when he came, he has joined a Gurukulam. He must be 16, 17 years old. Just after SSLC 10th. He wanted, and his parents also joyfully agreed to put him in the Gurukula where they study Vedas. They become Tantris, Yesterday I was telling them Tantris, yeah. Certified Tantris. They have to undergo 7 years course. And this boy, all of them came, we told them have your meal. They wanted to take rest, a room was given. So spent about 15 minutes, and when they got up, when this boy came forward, looked at us intently, you know what he asked? When will I get Atma Jnanam? A boy of 18 years, just come out of SSLC. So there are some rare occasions. He is very clear that he is joining this Gurukulam, studying Vedas, and after he comes out, tomorrow he will be a Tantri. He will be revered, respected by so many people, and he does not have any commercial, normally commercial interest also creeps in. But right at the beginning, he is very clear, he has joined this course only for Atma Jnanam. It's a reminder for all of us. You and I did not have this privilege. We had to enter into the battle of life either because of duties or compulsions or because of our desires or ambition. Neither we were told, nor by ourselves God kindled in us that our ultimate aim is to have Atma Jnanam. So there will be really a struggle for us, and the boy, he has no struggle. He is fresh. Right from the starting point, he is clear what should be, what is his aim. Why we mention this, we are struggling because we have not been given this right at the impressionable age. He gave us so many priorities, preferences, cravings, infatuation, ambition. And because of that, we fixed up the target. And then some we have failed, some we have succeeded. But still never we are satisfied, we are still carrying on. No? But through that boy, Papa now is reminding us, Acha, that boy was very clear. You were not clear at that age. So naturally, you are carrying so many concepts about life, about spirituality, about comforts, about your desire. So many things you are carrying on your back. So that will come and stand before you whenever you try. So we try to accept this reality. Because immediately after this, our priorities and preferences are totally different. That is why, though we want to, we are not that serious. If we are that serious, we will not bother about what is happening in and around us. The very fact that we say we find it difficult to maintain harmony at these three tiers, that means the commitment has not come. If the commitment has come, the priority will definitely be shifted to that. So we pray to him, please make me to get committed to this idea. This is one step ahead of our hearing. Satsang by itself will not help. But it gives a, when the tube is deflated, you have to pump in the air. No? So satsang does that job, but to keep it up, so the only thing is we should never lose hope, lose heart. We keep on persevering, trying patiently. Because he has facilitated everything. He is showing signs that he is holding our hand. Though still we look here and there, not at the place where he is directing. That is why we get delayed. But still we are safe in his hands. So try to feel his presence, try to feel his guidance. This is what came to our mind when we went through the email. More about it tomorrow. Today we will take up the vision for September. As we have already mentioned, due to some statutory conditions, we were not able to bring out the hard copies of vision for the past few months. Then the thought came that why Papa made this. Then it was becoming clear that everybody finds it difficult to keep the old copies also. Enormous work is done to put them in different covers and get it printed, and what do we do with that? So now that God has made us to enter into the digital era, why not we switch over to e-versions? So that is why now efforts are made to build up a constituency of e-version subscribers. It is mounting up well. So we are not sending now hard copies. Exceptional case where old people may not have access to computer or something. So when they express, we print about 100 copies and send to 1 or 2 or 3 or like that. We request all of you to kindly cooperate, spread this message to as many friends as possible. So on 1st of every month, it will be religiously sent through e-versions. September 2023, Papa's poem. In the womb of pain, the baby of joy is born. From the mire springs the beauteous lotus. The clouded sky reveals the radiant blue. Grim darkness holds the grandeur of light. In the depthless ocean lies the rarest gem. So in the ache of thought, find wisdom pure. In the heart of struggle, the haven of peace. In the battle of life, the victory. So we don't have to feel dejected, because behind this, there is light. Editorial: the psychological being in every one of us comes under the influence of three different attitudes in our bosom. They are called Satva, the passive, Rajas, the active, Tamas, the indolent. These gunas are reflected in our thoughts, words, and deeds. If we try to understand these characteristics in us and in others, many of our problems connected with human relationship would be solved. We were just talking about harmony at home, harmony at workplace, harmony with friends. So here is a direct answer. We are born with certain characteristics. At times, we are highly passive. At times, we are aggressive, active, creative. At times, we are indolent, lazy, indifferent. So it comes in us, naturally it is there in everybody. It is the brought forward baggage from our previous birth. So we will behave like that, they will also behave like that. If we accept that, automatically harmony comes. These gunas are reflected in our thoughts, words, and deeds. If we try to understand these characteristics in us and in others, many of our problems connected with human relationship would be solved. In other words, it will surely help to develop, to a great extent, harmony at home, workplace, and friends. Srimad Bhagavad Gita unfolds the different aspects of these gunas in chapter number 14, 17, and 18, where gunas as well as its application at different level, which are explained beautifully. Swami Chinmayanandaji says, when the same Ganges water is poured into 100 different bottles, each one would look different from the other, not because the waters are different, but because of the shape and color of each bottle. These are but qualities of the bottle, born of the glass material of the bottles, and when the same sacred water is looked through the bottle containers, the properties of the bottles get superimposed upon the contents. The blue water, the yellow water, the fat water, the lean water, etc. Similarly, the one eternal principle comes to express in the various matter occupants as different individuals due to the gunas born of Prakriti, even though the elements that constitute matter are one and the same. Keeping this in view, this month's issue of the Vision explores words of various masters on the gunas. May He who makes us understand the importance of these gunas enable all of us to transcend them. Let your burning, Papa says, let your burning aspiration be for the vision of the Lord in the visible universe with all beings and creatures in this. Your reading of the Gita will give you an exact knowledge of the state you have to attain, which is the absolute bliss of immortality. By the transcendence of the gunas and dandvas, the height of parabhakti. Role of gunas in devotion by Beloved Papa. Devotion, as rightly divided, is of two kinds, the lower and the higher. In the lower form of devotion, the devotee looks for guidance and concentration from outside and primarily attaches himself to the society of saints who have realized fully the greatness and glory of the Lord. To keep himself pure in thought, word, and deed, He controls all the forces that are working in his physical and psychical being and adjusts the conduct of his life so as to free himself from all desires of his mind. Mainly, he will have recourse to three kinds of sadhana: satsang, solitude, and Satvic diet. See what we discuss now, no? Not merely satsang. Satsang, solitude to do manana, and Satvic diet. How does the devotee now try to tune his mind in a continuous symphony with the Lord? It must be admitted that every remembrance signifies bringing into the mind the name and qualities of the person or object remembered. A prolonged remembrance means a sustained fixity of the thought on the name and attributes of the person or object. For the devotee, the Lord becomes the one great object of ceaseless remembrance, which is attained by an unbroken repetition of his sweet and all-powerful name, and bringing at the same time into the mind his sublime glories and attributes. As the devotee advances in this spiritual path, he transcends the tamo and rajogunas of nature, gets firmly seated in sattva-guna. Sattva-guna denotes a consciousness above the animality of human nature, filled with calmness, equality, light, and purity. It must be understood that this sattvic consciousness is a step to a still higher consciousness. The lower form of bhakti leads the devotee to this most necessary step. Now commences the higher aspect of devotion. Sattva-guna entitles the devotee to the grace of the Lord or a saint, and through this grace he is lifted beyond all gunas and comes, so to say, face to face with the immortal and all blissful Atman, whom he realizes as his real being and existence. Devotion of higher and lower, from the lower to the higher. The knowledge of the Atman liberates the bound soul from the vicious circle of births and deaths and grants him unchanging and eternal bliss and peace. It is then the higher bhakti, which is termed parabhakti, dawns on him. This is the summit of God realization. With jnana as the background, the devotee beholds the entire manifested universe as the supreme image of his beloved. All creatures and being things in the universe are looked upon by him as the very forms of his Lord. He feels and sees the Lord's presence everywhere. His sense of duality has completely vanished. Oneness of life, oneness of all existence becomes now the keynote of his vision. Not only in the inner realization of the Atman that the sense of diversity has appeared, but also in the external revelations of the natural phenomena. In this supreme state, the devotee enjoys unending and inexpressible bliss. There is no limit to his ecstasies, born of his consciousness of unity and oneness with the Lord. He veritably rolls, swims, gambols in the infinite ocean of joy. Blessed, a million times blessed is the devotee who reaches this highest peak of God realization. Two types of devotion, lower and higher. So first we seek Lord outside, we seek, and for this, satsang, solitude, Satvic diet is prescribed. And then this should all strengthen and trigger or intensify our remembrance. And the next one is to transcend all gunas. So the first one is very important. So we are now checking up for ourselves whether we have done sufficient this thing. Because of our priority for various other things, probably we would not have been able to resort to Satsang in the real sense, solitude in the real sense, and Satvic diet in the real sense. So this is today's, the doubt was uh, prompted by him in the minds of devotees, and slowly he tries to answer through these articles. Beloved Papa, Swami Ramdas answers. Devotee, before going beyond the gunas, is it necessary to be established in Sattva-guna? Papa, Sattva-guna comes and goes. One cannot be established in Sattva-guna. But when you are in Sattva-guna, you must attempt to rise beyond it, and by not allowing yourself to fall into Rajas and Tamas. They are ever changing, they are not constant. When you transcend all the gunas, you becoming established in the state of Turiya, you realize the Atman. Then there is no fall. Sattva-guna denotes purity of mind. Purity of mind is not everything. You must have God's grace to rise above the gunas. Therefore, the process is to rise from Rajas to Tamas, and from Tamas to Rajas, and from Rajas to Sattva. When you are in Sattva-guna, the mind becomes pure. This is achieved through Upasana, Nishkama Seva. With this view, if you do actions out of love and compassion, it will remove all impurities of the mind. The mind becomes absolutely pure and is prepared to receive the grace of the Guru. Then if you go to a saint, he will teach you what you are in reality. He will say that you are Brahman yourself. At once all the darkness in you is dispelled. You receive not only the contact, but also the word of the Guru, which acts on your heart like an arrow. Kabir calls it as Shabda Ban. Here the method is Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasana. Hearing, reflecting, and getting the mind fixed on that. Ignorance is thus dispelled, and you have Atma Sakshatkar. So mere self-purification will not do. You must receive the grace of the Guru to remove the veil of ignorance. Very often you are not prepared, as the mind is not pure, and the Guru's gaze does not act. You must become fit to receive the grace of a saint. Saint is a living God, a talking God. From him you get the power that dispels darkness, brings you the inner light or realization of the Atman. Here we remember, some old devotees used to say, Papa has declared in Bhajan Hall that those who have come in contact with Ramdas, they will get Sakshatkar. If we take it verbally with faith and devotion, it might. But the very fact that I feel I am nowhere near Sakshatkar, that means here Papa answers. Mere proximity to the saint or seeing him is not enough. Our mind must become receptive. That is why so many people have the darshan of Mahatmas. Does everybody get benefited? So what is to be done from our side? That is important. No? We are always looking for guidance, grace, everything from outside. That is why in Guru God experience he says, remembrance is, grace is nothing but remembrance. Kindly think about it. Very often you are not prepared, and the mind is not pure, and Guru's grace does not act. Identify yourself with the immortal Purusha, the witness, beyond the gunas, dandvas on one hand. Surrender all your action to the divine Shakti, whose manifestation is the universe of name, form, and movement on the other. Gunas and transcending them by Puja Mataji. Now, when Papa brought into being this vast creation of his and he invested all the activity therein with the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, he ordained that all worldly pleasures shall be accompanied by pain, inevitable. He ordained that all worldly pleasures shall be accompanied by pain, inevitable. In other words, he who sought the pleasures of the world should willy-nilly bargain for pain as well. But once you have attained and tasted eternal bliss, it becomes an unending state in which it is all Anand and Anand everywhere. There is no pain then. It is to attain to this state that you will have come here to be free from the gunas. All of you have come here. How do the gunas have their effect on you? How do the gunas have their effect on you? Now there are times when you might be sitting quietly all by yourself, feeling mentally at peace and contented. Then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason at all, you feel dejected and a mood of discontent creeps into you out of nowhere. Why is it so? It is because until you attain Papa, you are a prey to all passing emotions arising from the play of the three gunas. When you are in Satva, you feel all peaceful, serene. And then, when Satva gives way to Rajas, you suddenly become restless. You do not feel like sitting quietly in one place, but must run about pursuing the one job or another. Then Rajas in turn gives way to Tamas, and you become a prey to the very things that are inimical to your spiritual progress. But once Papa reveals himself in your heart, the sway of the gunas cannot affect you. You may become angry, but it is only a passing thing and does not leave any impress on you. You are always conscious that you are the self beyond all the gunas, and you are unruffled and blissful as ever. Now it is to attain this state of, or at least to make a beginning in this direction, that all have come here. How to attain to this state? Through Ramnam. Papa has indeed made everything so easy for us. Still we do not want it. Or after repeating Ramnam for some time, we imagine we have gained everything when we enjoy some amount of peace of mind and we assume we have attained Sakshatkar. What we do not know is that the state of peace is induced by Sattva-guna and needs must give way to Rajas and Tamas. This is the law of creation. Our task on this earth is to go beyond the three gunas. Words of Puja Swami Sachidanandaji. The world is actually not a creation of God but a projection, which means God himself has projected forth as the entire universe, as a seed projects itself forth as a huge tree. Everyone is He and there is nothing but He. The world drama is going on as directed by the Lord of the universe. So there is no why and whereof on any of the happenings. Ours is to submit to His will through His constant remembrance. The projection of this world, in the first instance, took place through the imbalance of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva stands for peace, harmony, and happiness. Rajas is full of activity and also brings about fights. Tamas means inertia. When there is any imbalance, say when Rajas is predominant, people will be prone to too much of activity. With the result, there will be fights and quarrels. One may have more of Tamas and less of Satvic and Rajasic. Another may have more of Rajasic and another may have more of Satvic one does not stay in a particular guna all the time. Those who have predominance of tamas do all their activities, including spiritual practices, in a tamasic way, and vice versa. Ultimately, those who are in tamas will gradually move from tamas to rajas and from rajas to sattva. One has to transcend every stage to realize God. This is a gradual process. One's different moods, anger, etc., are because of one's own inherent vasanas. But food, rajasic or tamasic, can lead to manifesting anger, etc. The person preparing the food can also play an important part in making the food sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. If the person who cooks the food chants God's name while cooking, and thus in sattvic mood, the food prepared will be sattvic. Papa says, you are asked to rise about sattva guna, then it is that you realize the Atman. After realizing the Atman, your attitude towards all beings and creatures is one of love. Gunas by Vinoba Bhave. Prakriti of everything and every being consists of three constituents, three gunas, moods, sattva, rajas, and tamas. All the beings are made of these three materials, differences being only in their proportion. Only when we separate the self from all of them could we succeed in separating it from the body. To examine these gunas and to conquer them is the way to separate the self from the body. With restraint and firmness, we have to go on subduing and conquering them one by one and reach the ultimate destination. Let us take tamas first. We are observing its terrible consequence in the present social situation. Its main consequence is laziness, which in turn gives rise to sleep and blunders. Only if we overcome all the three things, we may take it that we have conquered tamas. Among them, laziness is extremely dreadful. A little more food induces us to lie down. And all the three things, we may take it that we have conquered tamas. Here in ashram, Papa Mataji are testing us by bringing more and more prasad. Whether in spite of eating that sweet, whether we slip into tamas. If we take it as prasad, we will not be slipping into tamas. Among them, laziness is extreme. Everything is in vain until this laziness is overcome. To shake off laziness, one must do physical labor. It is the only way to conquer laziness. If we fail to do this, nature will make us pay for this lapse. Overcoming laziness is one thing, another is to overcome sleep. How can we have deep and sound sleep? The cure for laziness is applicable here too. The body should be continuously used. Then one will sleep like a log the moment one retires to bed. Life is given to us to attain the highest ends, to fulfill its mission. If it is eaten up by sleep, how can we achieve anything worthwhile in life? When a lot of time is consumed in sleep, the third manifestation of tamas, blunders, occurs naturally. A sleepy mind is not alert. That results in inattentiveness. Too much sleep gives rise to laziness, which results in forgetfulness. And this forgetfulness is detrimental to spiritual progress. Lethargy of the mind is the cause of forgetfulness. If the mind is awake, it will not forget things. An inattentive mind is bound to contract the disease of forgetfulness. To overcome it, one must conquer laziness and sleep, do physical work, and be ever alert. One should one should keep an account of every moment so that laziness does not get an opportunity to penetrate one's life. Efforts should thus be made to conquer tamas in all forms. Then comes Rajas. Rajas too is a terrible foe. It is the other side of Tamas. In fact, Rajas and Tamas should be considered interchangeable terms. After resting for long, the body feels like doing something, and after too much activity, it seeks rest. Thus, Rajas follows Tamas and vice versa. The main characteristic of Rajas is the itch and ambition to engage in all sorts of activities. There is an intense desire to do daring deeds. Rajas gives rise to limitless association and attachment to actions. Rajas is always gushing forth, driving man to do this or that. Under the influence of Rajas, man intrudes into all sorts of activities. He forgets his Swadharma. In fact, performance of Swadharma implies giving up all other activities. Karma Yoga, as enjoined by the Gita, is the cure for Rajas. Karma Yoga means doing everything with a particular frame of mind. Sowing seeds in the field is not the same thing as throwing them here and there. There is a world of difference between these two actions. We know what we gain by sowing seeds and what we lose by throwing them. Karma that the Gita prescribes is like sowing the seeds. There is a tremendous potency in performing one's Swadharma, which is one's duty. When one is absorbed in Swadharma, Rajas loses its force because the mind gets concentrated. It then never swerves from Swadharma. Satva. One must be very careful in dealing with Satva. How can one detach the self from Satva? It's a matter for subtle thinking. Satva is not to be completely destroyed. Rajas and Tamas are to be completely rooted out. But the matter is different with Satva. If a big mob is gathered at a place and it is to be dispersed, the police are ordered to shoot below the waist so that the people were not killed, but they do get wounded. Satva is to be wounded, it is not to be killed. After the disappearance of Rajas and Tamas, pure Satva remains. So long as the body is there, one must be in some mode or the other. What then does detachment from Satva mean? When we have Satva, we become proud of it. This drags us down from its true nature. If we want bright light from a lantern, the soot deposit inside its glass cover has to be wiped off, but this is not sufficient. The dust on the outer surface of the glass cover has also to be removed. In the same way, the soot of Tamas has to be wiped off, and then the dust of Rajas should also be removed, so that the radiance of the self could spread. Then only the clean glass of pure Sattva remains between the light and us. Does removing Sattva mean breaking the glass? No. The lantern will then become useless. It needs glass. Therefore, instead of breaking the glass, one should fix a piece of paper on the glass so that we can have the light but avoid its glare. Conquering Sattva means elimination of pride about and attachment to Sattva. We should make use of Sattva, but that has to be done with care and skill. Sattva should be freed from pride. How to overcome the pride that I have Sattva in me? There is a way. Sattva should be imbibed through constant practice so that it becomes our second nature. Continuous performance of Satvic actions withers away the pride about it. Through such actions, Sattva becomes an integral part of our being. It should not remain a guest, it should rather become a member of the family. A guest comes and goes. Sattva becomes an integral part of our being. It should not remain a guest, it should rather become a member of the family. We feel proud of things that we do once in a while. We sleep daily, but do not consider it something special and do not talk about it. But if a patient has no sleep for days and then sleeps for a while, he would tell everybody about it. An even better example would be that of our breathing. We breathe for 24 hours a day, but never talk about it or brag about it. We feel proud when some good action gets done through our hands. Why? Because it has not happened in the routine course. When a child does something good, the mother pats on his back. Otherwise, the child is familiar with the mother's scolding only. Thus, first pride about Satva should be conquered, and then attachment. Pride can be conquered through constant practice of Satvic actions. To conquer attachment, one should work without desire for fruit and dedicate to the Lord that fruit that is received because of Satva. When Satva is fully assimilated in life, the fruit of Satvic action appears before us in the form of a supernatural power or frame. But that should also be regarded as worthless. A tree never eats its own fruit. Howsoever attractive and delicious it may be. Ah, what a wonderful example. No? A tree never eats its own fruit, howsoever attractive and delicious it may be. In Sattva Guna, you have a glimpse of the eternal through a transparent veil, and your vision outside is one of equality, says Papa. Slokas from Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita in chapter 14, 17 and 18 elaborately unfolds various aspects of the Trigunas and their application in daily life. Although there are many shlokas that deal with the subject, due to paucity of space, only a few have been reproduced here. Chapter number 14, shloka number 6 to 8, all combined. Of these, Satva, which because of its stainlessness is luminous and healthy, it binds by attachment to happiness and attachment to knowledge. Know thou, Rajas to be the nature of the passion, source of thirst, attachment, it binds fast. O Kaunteya, the embodied one, by attachment to action. Know, okay. Know the embodied one. It binds fast, okay. But know, thou Tamas is born of ignorance, including all embodied beings. It binds fast by heedlessness, indolence, and sleep. Under the Sattva influence, the mind is steady, reflecting over faithfully on the consciousness of the self. Sattva is free from evils and is relatively free from rajasic agitations or tamasic darkness. Though Sattva is the most divine mental attitude, still it binds us and acts as a limitation on our divine nature. Sattva binds the infinite to matter through the attachment to knowledge and happiness. Under the influence of Rajas, individual is bound in his own attachment. Such a passionate being, goaded by his desires for things not yet acquired, and crushed under the weight and responsibility of his attachment to things that he possesses, can never keep quiet, but must necessarily act on endlessly, earning and spending, yet thirsting for more and more. Rajoguna also seemingly binds the infinite self to matter vestures and makes it play the part of a limited being through an endless array of inexhaustible actions. Though the self is not an agent actor, Rajas makes it acts with the idea that I am the doer. Under the influence of Tamas, man's intellectual capacity to discriminate between the right and wrong gets veiled. He lives ever asleep to the nobler and diviner aspirations of life. There is no consistency of purpose, brilliance of thought, tenderness of emotion, or nobility of action in an individual who comes under the contamination of the tamoguna influences. Chapter number 17, slokas 14, number 16, worship of gods, the twice born, the teachers and the wise, purity, straightforwardness, celibacy, non-injury. These are called the austerity of the body. Speech which causes no excitement and is truthful, pleasant and beneficial, and the practice of the study of the Vedas, these constitute the austerity of speech. serenity of mind, good-heartedness, silence, self-control, purity of nature, these together are called mental austerity. Austerity is an intelligent method of living the right relationship with the world objects, thereby avoiding all unnecessary dissipations of our vital energies. The energies that are so economized and conserved are thereafter directed and employed in cultivating creative fields. The very same tapas is pursued by different people with equal faith. Each of them is observed to gain different results. This is not accidental. The people who do tapas are of different temperaments. The good Satvic, the passionate Rajasic, the dull Tamasic. According to their governing temperaments, they act differently, with different tempo, with different emphasis, so that they come to reap diverse results from the different types of tapas performed by them. Chapter number 18, shlokas 20 to 22. That by which one sees the one indestructible. Is Satvic. This we will keep it because it may be difficult for hearers to understand. Motive for any action must be clean by Gondavalikar Maharaj. Of the three gunas, tamas is the most akin to inert matter, and therefore its effects are most easily, widely, quickly perceptible. Tamas directly vitiates thought and desires. Man, however, has the capability of purifying the mind by profusely repeating nama, for this leads to the development of Sattva, which gradually purifies the mind. That God can be attained by mere disciplinary practices and mortification of the body and the mind is a mistaken notion. Were it correct, workers toiling in the scorching sun to break stone into road metal would have been among the first to attain God. We should remember God concerns himself with a man's disposition and the state and tendencies of his mind and heart, rather than with mere physical acts like mortification. One may create in people's eyes an image or impression of great devoutness by mortification exercise, by fasting, yet secretly entertain a mundane objective. So, God who resides in all hearts cannot be so deceived. We should therefore aim at practicing what we preach or say in the path of spirituality. Nothing is more harmful than hypocrisy. To get lost in contemplation of God and thus forget to take food is far better than intentional fasting. We should get so engrossed in spiritual meditation that we acquire constant, unbroken awareness of God's presence. It matters not whether the body does or does not take food. On the other hand, mere fasting without such awareness of His presence will only lead to weakness of the body. It is the motive behind any act that determines the intrinsic value of the act. God will readily condone an unorthodox action if the motive prompting it is pure. On the other hand, an apparently good action with an ulterior motive may keep God away. An action free from expectation of any kind will be highly appreciated by Him. We should strive to win God purely for His own sake. Indeed, if He were to present Himself before us and to offer to grant our desire, we should only ask for His name. This is true desirelessness. A manifestation of God may disappear sometime or other, but His name abides forever. As long as His name is with us, it is incumbent on Him to come to us. One day, dear children, a monk was walking alongside a stream when he saw a scorpion struggling in the water. Knowing that scorpions cannot swim, he knelt down to scoop it out of the water. Just before settling it down, the scorpion turned and stung his hand. The monk withdrew his hand in pain, and the scorpion fell back into the stream. When the monk realized this, he scooped his hands down again to scale the scorpion. And just as before, the scorpion stung his hand, fell back into the stream. This scene repeated itself several times. A little boy who was playing near the stream asked the monk, "Excuse me, why do you keep trying to save the scorpion? Don't you know it will just sting you every time when you try to rescue it?" The monk, picking up a leaf and rescuing the scorpion successfully this time, replied, "Dear boy, just as it is scorpion's nature to sting and water's nature to make things wet, so is my nature to save." Be true to your nature. Know that though another's nature may be quite different from your own, that does not make it good or bad. Epistles of Swami Ramdas. Beloved Ram, you are almost taking it for granted that you as an individual are the actor, whereas in reality you are only an instrument of the divinity dwelling in you and in the universe. Hence for you, the question of dandvas and gunas has risen, producing a mental state of uncertainty, doubt and vacillation. The moment your surrender is complete and fixed, you work in the prosecution of the task for which God has appointed you, without prejudice or favor, doing all things, pleasant or unpleasant, as they are called, in a spirit of perfect nishkama, leaving on you, on your pure spirit, no stain or impression as their reaction. The external phenomena is a world play, the Leela of the Lord, wherein his three gunas work to make it a grand display of infinite diversity. Observe this game of the gunas through the vision of the inner calmness of the pure, unaffected Atman, and act your part in the discharge of the work Prakriti or God's power has enjoined on you. Give up the false notion that you are the doer. In memoriam, Sri Ramaraghavan, aged 92, an ardent devotee of the ashram, was called by beloved Papa on the 5th July 2023. Ramaraghavan Mama was the first Mukhya Sevak of the Chennai Satsang Samiti. His commitment and contribution to actualize the concept of setting up Prem Nagar at Padappai in Chennai will be reverentially remembered. M. Subbarao, aged 94, an ardent devotee of Mangalore, was also called by beloved Papa on 1st of August 2023. Srimati Swarajya Mama, an ardent devotee of the ashram from the Hyderabad, shuffled off her mortal coil on the 5th August 2023. She was a regular participant of the Google session. Even if we remember it, on the 3rd August also she was attending it. We pray for beloved Papa's blessings on the dear departed souls, for eternal rest and peace at his lotus feet. 15,500 crore Nam Japa Yajna for world peace. Total Japa received in the 4th round of 15,500 crore Nam Japa Yajna for world peace in the month of July is 200 crores. The grand total of the Japa done so far in this round stands at 390 crores. Hare Ram Nama Saptah. The devotees of Sri Avadhudendra Saraswati Swamigal from Andhra Pradesh will be visiting the ashram and conducting Hare Rama Nama Saptah from 7th of October 2023. The Saptah will conclude in the morning on Puja Mataji's Jayanti Day, the 14th October 2023. An aspirant should first conquer the lower two gunas and raise himself to Sattva guna, then transcend Satva in order to realize Brahman or Atman. After transcending the three gunas, he becomes master of the gunas. He becomes Gunatita or Dandvatita. When he has realized Brahman, the gunas do not lord over him. These are the thought for the month, words of Papa. Some we are skipping because it may not be possible for the hearers to go along with it. At least now we have some idea about the gunas, which are a part and parcel of our nature. All of us have got these gunas. As pointed out, only the degree varies. So as aspirants are devotees, ours is try to dwell more and more on the Satvic aspect so that the hold of Rajasic and Tamasic become less and less, and then finally to transcend the Satvic also. This is the way to be peaceful in all situations. When we started this today's satsang with harmony at home, harmony at workplace, harmony with friends. Disharmony comes in some level only because of the gunas in us and our reactions to the gunas in others. We now realize that. It is primarily because of the gunas inherent in us. No? So we have been asked to watch our gunas and to rise above the gunas. It will not go easily. So that is why we have been asked to move from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva. Vigilance is necessary. Any time we may slip down. Similarly, we should know that all others also have got the same gunas. Even if we are sattvic, in them suppose the rajasic or tamasic are dominant, naturally the sattvic will not receive the same sattvic effect. So when somebody behaves, somebody does something, we try to analyze this mentally. That is why Puja Swamiji always used to say, don't react immediately. Because this process has to take place within us. Impulsively, if we react, that means we are at the guna level, we are also responding to them in the guna level. It will not serve the purpose. Kindly think about it. So September issue of the vision contained these very important aspects in our life. So Bhagavad Gita throws light on this in the very instead of learning it in an academic way. Every word when you get, we can try at least one article intensely. Any one article. Papa has placed before varieties. Any one article may enthuse us, may throw some light, may awaken us. So in that way, we try to move from the tamas to rajas, rajas to sattvic. Again, we may slip down, but again we will try. And try to dwell on sattvic for more time, and then try to transcend that also. As Vinobaji pointed out, Satvic should not, Sattva rasa should not be a guest. It should become a member of the family. Meaning, it should get ingrained in us. We are not conscious of it. Just like breathing and sleeping or anything, we don't specifically remember because it has become a part of our being. Only when I remember Satvic, that I have Satvic qualities, the pride creeps in. That is why he mentioned that it should become our nature. If these principles are imbibed, the purpose of reading the whole September issue is served. We pray to Papa to give us that intensity to do this manana on this aspect and try to move from stage 1 to stage 2 and to stage 1, stage 3, and to make the stage 3 as an inborn nature of all of us. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Om Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Hari Om to everybody.
Thanks for the vision.
Thanks for the vision. Hariyo.